Welcome to Vitalify Unplugged. You're listening to your hosts, Gree and Steph.
In this podcast, we talk about everything health and well-being, science and technology, and ancient wisdom.
This is for the quirky humans navigating the messy middle, looking for the path to true vitality.
It's for the curious minds and tired bodies looking for clarity, energy, and inspiration that works your way.
Okay.
Hey.
Do you ever feel like you could run a marathon or train for a triathlon like I did 1 week, and then the next minute you're searching for your keys? I just lost mine the other day and we were fighting over who put them where. So like your brain feels like it's in this thick, soupy brain fog. Well, I'm going to challenge you to think about it not as failing, and not just getting older.
I can totally relate to that key thing. Dave always thinks that I lost my keys because I ask about it because I talk through problems, right? And then it's like, but I seriously had lost my keys for about 2 weeks. And I was pretending that I hadn't lost them. They were in my handbag, hiding in my little handbag. I don't really use a handbag. Don't usually have them there. I usually have them in my pockets. Anyway, but it could be our hormones asking for a rhythm. It could be and not rigidity. It could be your brain, just like your body is cyclical and all that sort of stuff. Mine's not anymore, by the way. I will get to that. But most of the systems that we live in, and it could just be your brain and have nothing to do with your hormones. It could just be that you've got a bit of a non-typical brain, I guess, that goes off on tangents. But the world that we live in is very linear and wants us to perform like machines, I feel.
Totally. So in today's episode of Vitalify Unplugged, we're ditching the productivity guilt and we're syncing our inner seasons and giving a loving middle finger to the myth that we have to all be on time and all do it in the same way and all be on this straight, narrow path, which is total bullshit. Sorry, excuse my language.
As a slightly older person, I do like people to be on time or tell me when they're not going to be on time.
Sorry, Gree.
Young Steph. but we're actually talking about brain fog today, and let's just assume that it's not the enemy. Can't be that early in the morning. It's actually feedback. It's actually us. Maybe it's telling us to slow down and take things easier. So let's explore how syncing your hormones with tech, intuition, brains, how it can support your clarity, energy, and compassion. But before we dive into this brain fog thing, I've always had an issue with that word because it doesn't feel like fog to me. It feels a bit cloudy. So I asked my bestie, ChatGPT. Everybody says ChatGPT. Generative, pre-trained, transformer. So I asked what brain fog is. It says brain fog is not a medical diagnosis. I'm reading now. It's a term people use to describe a state of mental cloudiness, where your thinking feels slow or fuzzy or disconnected. I can relate to a couple of those. It can feel like forgetting simple things. For me, it was like the brain just disappeared out the window. Struggling to concentrate. It could feel like you're off and not like yourself, or that you're low on energy or mental energy, even if you're rested, even if you've been in bed for 8 hours. Definitely relate to that one. Or that you have difficulty making decisions or finding words for things. So there's some other things to look out for with this brain fog, which could be hormonal, or it could just be stress. It could just be that there's too many things flowing at you. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I definitely think it's often a symptom that is a signal for us to explore something deeper. And I always look for, what else is there? There's more, it can't just be,
She does.
yeah. So I often, and everyone's different, and it's very unique to you and your experience and your time and your season of life. But it could be hormonal shifts. It could be chronic stress. I think we downplay chronic stress a lot, and that often will interfere with our sleep. And if you're not practicing good sleep hygiene and getting deep, restful sleep, doesn't necessarily have to be long, but that deep, restful space where your brain can actually shut off for a bit and regenerate. Could be gut inflammation,
Or
overstimulation,
inflammation in general.
right. And it's, like, I hate putting people into categories, but the body the body is always evolving and changing, and we definitely go through different seasons in our life. And for women 35 and over, leading up to perimenopause or even PMS, like
Menstrual health.
oh my goodness. And there's so much around like currently the uterine health in terms of endometriosis is
It's
so
horrible.
prevalent.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And the impact that creates on managing pain, but then also triggering the hormonal, it all filters out. So it's
and the number of people I know a few people who are in that endo space and trying to help women with endo and things, and it's
and they're doing
the
a
number
lot
of
of amazing work.
yeah, absolutely.
And women are finally being heard about that in that area, because quite often they've been dismissed, and because all the science has been really, that area of research has been very minimal. So
but area of
often
research
overlooked.
On around any women's health, right? So
And often done by men, so not
without
necessarily
lived experience,
exactly.
well-meaning
Yeah.
men, I'm sure, and clever. But if you
Super.
don't have the lived experience, how
Yeah.
can you actually do it? It's like you I've seen there's a few male menopause coaches, and I'm going, seriously?
I mean, then maybe as observers, right? Then,
And I get it,
observers of their partners. Yeah. Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
just kind of go, really? Okay, you do that. You do you. Let them. Let's
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about the let them theory by Mel
Well,
Robbins one day.
I think, well, that brings up an interesting uh, thought that just came to me, is that actually having men who are supportive of women going through
Absolutely.
endometriosis or PMS,
Yeah.
because I know in my family we're very stoic and country and farmer like, and you just push through and
We
get
do
through it. And
everything.
yeah, right. And so when my family suffers a lot of endometriosis. I was never diagnosed, but definitely had extremely painful periods. And for the men around me to understand that, they had no idea, and they kind of just left me to it. But at the same time, there was no support or necessarily wraparound, like, are you okay stuff. You just had to like push through on your own. So
And it's sad that
it's
that's also the case for you. I mean, there's almost 20 years between us, right? And that things haven't changed. But I don't know if this is the right time to talk about it. But I do think talking about menstrual health, where we're talking about brain fog, and we'll get to some lived experiences and things. But I remember the first time menopause came up in a conversation on a call. This was like an online meeting among a lot of women, and there was one woman that has a business that actually educates businesses on menstrual health, right? And she was in her
wow.
40s,
Mhm.
and she was talking about what she was doing, and there was three of us over 55 in the room, and we're going, talking about this now. It was so funny because we were all going, whoa, you can actually talk about it, right? So
Oh,
I'm
how
really
empowering.
happy that it's happened. And I guess I've been fortunate in my lifetime, in my menstrual health or in my health. I am a fairly healthy person, and I did not have heavy periods or anything like that. It was just something that happened, sort of thing. I was you know, I had some issues as a teenager with eating disorders and that sort of stuff. So I was a very late starter, and you know, I don't know. I've just gone on a rant now, so I might just do my history.
Keep going.
Right.
Keep
So,
going. You're there. Get on your
so when
soapbox.
I so when I was 20, I still didn't have my period. So the
Really?
doctors, yeah. So the
20
doctors
years old.
gave. So the doctors gave me the 70-year-old male doctor who used to smoke in his office. Gave me. I remember this very distinctly because I went and I had what's it called, like an examination in his doctor's offices when I was like 16 or 17. It was horrible. Like, it was nothing. It didn't do anything wrong, but it was just
No. Yeah.
horrible, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it put me on the contraceptive pill to start my period. To start my period. I'm not joking.
Didn't work. No,
No,
but
it was
so
in
it didn't.
1983, right?
Oh, gee whiz.
But it worked. I mean, I was bleeding, but it didn't start my cycle, right?
Wow, that's fascinating.
You know, I
Oh
don't know.
my.
You're not supposed to give people hormones that way, but that's what they did, and then I started getting really, really, really painful periods, like cramps and all that sort of stuff. So I stopped. I had to stop taking the pill, and then and so just be normal. It was fine. I wasn't that sexually active anyway. All good. Because that wasn't why I was given the pill. I was given the pill to stop my period. And in any
Start your
case,
kid.
this was the 80s. You definitely wear a condom, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there was other things, and not just to not get pregnant, but not to get HIV and things.
Protect.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
other things. I mean, student days in the 80s in Manchester, they were fun.
Good. And they should
But
be.
but I guess then through my life, and we'll have another episode about this, about having children and not. But I always thought I'd have at least three children. I come from a family with lots of kids and things like that. I didn't end up having any because it just didn't happen. And we'll cover that in a different episode. But throughout that time, I was back on and off the pill again. And I remember one time I just went, you know what, I've had enough of this pill stuff, this hormonal stuff. So I came off it, and I'm going, oh my God. And I have heard about brain fog, right? Because it was like this fog lifted that I didn't know that I had
After you stop taking
when I
hormones.
stopped taking the pill, right?
Wow.
So it was
Wow.
like, it's all this like side effects that crept up on you. And I don't know if pills are better now or not, but in those
They're
days, at
very
least, it's sort of
advanced.
just, it crept up on you. So you didn't actually know that you had this sort of fog thing happening in your brain. But that was kind of an aha moment for me. And I was still in my early 20s. I was at university, and I go, wow. So anyway,
I think when menstrual cycle took up a lot of brain space in my youth because it was so painful.
Would have.
And I don't know that I necessarily connected it with brain fog, but I was definitely unable to concentrate very well on what was going on around me because of the pain that I was in, and the distraction of the uncomfortableness.
I mean, I only had a short period that I was in having cramps and things like that. Apart from that, I was kind of fine.
I actually never. I had a little moment when I had acne, and the doctor. I had started my menstrual cycle. I started when I was about 12, and funnily enough, my daughter might kill me for this. She got her cycle at exactly the same age as what I did.
She'll kill you for that. That is
But what I'm saying, I got mine at the same time as my mum. Like, our age was very, age bracket of starting our cycle was very similar, which I just thought was interesting. So I'd had mine for a while, but I used to get acne. And the only time I've used hormones is during that time when I had acne, and the GP again put me on this, which was convenient because I had a boyfriend, so it worked. But, I was older. I was over 16 when that happened. So,
Good. Let's keep it legal
it was
here.
all consensual and protected. And so that I had that little stint, and then I just went off hormones altogether. And since maybe 19 years old, I've never engaged with hormones. From a medical perspective, except when I went to have babies, we were used IVF, and then again I had to inject.
That is a horrible experience.
Had to,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
And I had to, cultivate my eggs, like all my little ovaries had to produce lots of eggs, which were then harvested. So that I had a big gap in between hormones. So my cycle was very natural, in terms of I didn't engage with hormones and as a contraceptive, and I just use natural, like condoms and stuff as protection. So I've lived like that, and even now I don't use hormones. But in saying that, it has friends of mine have, and that's been essential to manage PMS or the endometriosis or
And I do
whatever,
think that
and the heavy bleeds. And then and I think that all connects to how much brain space, because when you're thinking about that, you're very distracted, and whether it's foggy or cloudy,
it's pain,
it's
it's
a
discomfort.
distraction. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's gut or menstrual or whatever it is. If you have pain of any sort, it could be inflammation or any sort, it's going to take up brain space, right? So we're not even going to talk about technology for this, because technology can help with some of these things. But, I just thought about this when you mentioned about your daughter. My sister was a very early starter. She was like 11 or 12, and she told mom, and then mom told her dad. And my sister was so angry with me for telling her dad.
Well, and I think, and I guess that's another thing, because but that is stoic times where, it was embarrassing to talk about that. And a lot of my work in my younger days and working in schools with young people was really breaking down those barriers to accept and create and normalize that our bodies go through these processes, and actually understanding the hormonal cycles and particularly for women and young girls, and not being afraid of it, but embracing it and finding ways to work with it in terms of how the hormone fluctuations change in the different parts of your cycle, and how that can influence your creativity or your focus or your needing to rest. And it's empowering to understand that, you're not just crazy, or you're just, people aren't shutting down your feelings, because something real is going on and changing in your body, and just being able to process that in a safe space, which means educating the men around us to
absolutely
be able to hold that space.
And the men want to know about this,
usually,
because they're kind of going, hang on, what just hit me, because
what am I dealing with right here?
the cycles are different. Like you could get emotional, you could get angry. Like I had minimal sort of hormonal disturbances in my natural cycles, if you like. However, I knew when it was coming, because I felt very angry for about one day.
Me too. I
got so impatient and maybe hungry too, but it was kind of funny.
I used to mung out a week before.
But I guess
I
didn't end up having children, and like we said, we'll talk about some of those things at a later stage. But when I in my 50s, when I sort of well, I guess when menopause, perimenopause, I don't understand why they changed the name. It was used to be called menopause in the middle, when you were in the middle of all that sort of stuff, I'm sure. I hate when people change names
No,
of things.
but there's a medical definition of menopause, and that's 1 year,
1 year
12
after.
months without menarche. So
Yeah,
no bleeding for 1 year is
I know,
identified as
but that's not how
menopause.
we used to think about it when I was little or when my mum was going through
Uh,
it. And, it was called menopause, the whole thing, the
right,
process.
right,
At least
right,
that's
right.
how I understood it. Obviously, not a medical practitioner, but that was kind of because I remember mentioning to my mum in her 40s that, I understand this. I think she could have killed me. She did not. She did not have menopause at that stage. But I guess if I go back to
She was probably perimenopausal. You guys are
yeah,
being
yeah,
mean to her.
but when in those days well, at least I used the term menopause about perimenopause, so that's
Can
kind
I
of
sorry,
yeah,
hold your thought. I just want to interject. I have a friend who was looking at her family history, and her great 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 grandmother actually got put into a mental institution because she was going through menopause.
yeah,
Like
yeah, and it's happened. It
that's
happened a lot. Yeah,
yeah, the
because
misunderstanding of what, like that rage or that outburst. People thought it
yeah,
was
yeah.
crazy, but it's normal. It's actually
It's
normal.
perfectly normal. And the thing is, remember in those days as well, women were probably supposed to be seen, not heard as well. And you get to that
Right?
stage, that midlife transition where you go,
Mm.
fuck it. Sorry, pardon my French. Maybe I shouldn't use those kind of words, but
Oh,
you
I
know,
think you should absolutely use fuck it. I'm going to
but
say it too.
I've had enough. I've lived enough. I need to
Yeah.
be heard. This is
Yeah.
what's going on. You don't even know what's going on, honestly. Like if I look at my
Mm.
own realization, I just, I had my own tech startup, and I was also dealing with a lot of, and I was contracting to pay the bills. These are the sort of things that you do, and my brain just flew out the window, right? It just disappeared. So I was absolutely convinced that I had Alzheimer's. It's not a laughing matter because I do know people in
Mm.
my but it was just for me I was absolutely convinced that I had that because my brain stopped
And what
functioning the
age were
way that
you? Around about?
so this would have been about I was about probably about 53, around 53 to 50. I don't
And
know.
had you not had a period for a whole year?
No. This is perimenopause, start of perimenopause.
So you're saying when your brain flew out the window, which we're kind of linking to a foggy cloudiness,
Yeah.
um, you're saying you hadn't come out the other end of
No,
menopause. You
no,
were
no.
sort of
This is the
you
beginning of
was
perimenopause.
oh
I
wow.
was still, uh, uh, cyclical and things. And that wasn't until very late in my 50s that um,
Mm.
yeah, probably
Because they
59 I
do
was when I was menopaused, as I call it. I was menopaused at 59.
pause.
So no. This is actually perimenopause, and I apologize for using the wrong terminology. It's just like in my brain, it's kind of
All the
that. So
same.
that was the beginning of it. That was the beginning of the hormonal changes for me, and I was kind of going, "What the heck is going on?" And that's when I went to see a doctor about my Alzheimer.
And I guess what this conversation is bringing up for me right now is that instead of, like, I guess your response was, this isn't my normal. What the hell's going on? I need to go see a doctor.
Mm,
And I guess the challenge and the current narrative in 2025 around women's health and perimenopause and menopause is and there's a great lady who's on Instagram who I can't think of her name, but I'll look it up. She talks about how, and this is the reflection of what I'm hearing in this conversation, is that it's not actually anything wrong with us, but that fogginess, that cloudiness is like this sacred intelligence that our bodies have evolved to communicate with us, that
yeah,
we are now moving into a wiser phase of our life where, and it's like, like a scramble, like you don't need that information anymore because you're now stepping into the queen era where you are a wise woman. And the
yeah,
thing, and exactly like what you said, I've got the experience, I've done this, I've
yeah,
done that, I know. And this message that and how perhaps women receive it is through this brain cloudiness in our brains. And instead of being scared of it and running to the doctor, which you should do if you are having symptoms that are persisting and you can't manage. But what I'm saying is it's a signal that there's not actually anything wrong.
Well,
It's
there
stepping
isn't any.
into a new era, and it's powerful.
But it is.
And
But the thing is,
wise.
if you're like me, haven't had children, you've not really had that brain fog, that experience at all before. And I know that that happens often after having kids, that you have that sort of thing. To me, it was totally new,
So it's
right?
normal.
So yeah, but to me it was totally new. But I just wanted to reflect on what you were saying there about the new era and things like that, because there's this wonderful Native American saying, and let me see if I can read it properly here. At menage, a girl meets her power. Through menstruation, she practices her power. At menopause, she becomes her power.
I feel that. I mean, I'm not menopausal, but I'm potentially peri. And even if I'm not, I'm pre-peri. So I'm gonna.
Well, you're preparing for it all your life. You spend half your life preparing for it, and then you spend half your life in it.
I
or
would
whatever.
love to embrace that power.
No, so it's a wonderful saying, and this is a Native American saying, which now I can't remember the name of this. There was I think she's called Lucy something. She called herself the period queen, who actually educated us at the conference about the cycles and things like that, which was really interesting. But I guess for me, when I then went to see the doctor, because I did have to have I needed my brain to function and things, and this doctor, a wise woman, probably 15 years my senior or something like that. She still works, specializes on women in menopause and things, and she kind of did an absolutely thorough test of everything, like blood tests, what's it called, colonoscopies and everything, because she found some high calcium or something. I don't know. I just went with it and things like that. But in the end, because I showed up saying, I think I've got Alzheimer's. She was a wise woman, and she did all the tests. There's nothing else wrong. But I was just perimenopausal.
Like, you're going through menopause.
Perimenopause is what you call
Perimenopause.
It, right? Yeah. And so what worked for me and what had worked for her for 15 years was, because there's HRT and there's all sorts of things, and whatever works for you is fine, right? For me, she just she told me to take testosterone, right?
Wow.
And so she I don't even know if it's on prescription. Yeah, she did prescribe. She prescribed the male testosterone, because the women testosterone is much more expensive. How stupid is that? Because hairdressers are more expensive. Everything is more expensive for women, right? She said, you take this and you just put I can't remember the dosage. Obviously, it's quite it's a few years since I came out on the other side. I got menopaused. But she said, take this, put this much on once a day. Make sure you put it somewhere that's already hairy, because it will grow hairs around where it is.
You're going to get a bit manly.
Yes. So, but she said that she had been taking it. That was what has kept her clear. And so it was her lived experience. I have no idea what the science behind it is, but I did look it up pre-ChatGPT. I did look it up, and there is science to say that, because, and you can elaborate on this, I think, Steph, that men and women have the same hormones, and
absolutely,
that there is a reduction. This is probably why Viagra is so popular, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because their testosterone goes down as well,
Yeah.
And
often,
I've had long conversations
bodybuilders,
with
they're using
a long
testosterone
conversations with my brother about it as well, who is going, had got late diagnosis of ADHD and that sort of stuff. But the energy, testosterone helps. But then some doctors don't want to prescribe it. I'm going, what? Just help with the things that work.
Yeah, it's a fine line, and it depends on Medicare and and the doctor's
He's not
reason
here.
for prescribing. Yeah, but in Australia anyway, testosterone's tightly monitored and not freely prescribed
Oh,
unless
it's
there's absolute
definitely
blood
tightly monitored
results.
in Norway.
Yeah.
Everything's tightly monitored in
Mm,
Norway.
mm,
Yeah. So,
mm.
but it's
But
like,
that,
but they would rather
mm,
put you on some heavy strength mental health
mm,
antidepressives
mm.
than give you something that can actually give you your energy back. It has to be
Well,
controlled and it has to be monitored, but I just think we some medications. Okay, I'm off. I'm on my soapbox. I'm off on a rant. I think that we treat symptoms so much, and we go, oh,
mm,
we know this. This must be depression. Like I've said this
mm,
before. My brother was wrongly diagnosed with depression rather than ADHD and given the wrong
mm,
medication. Right?
yeah.
You know, and we blast them with this medication, and I'm going, well, what they need might just be some to get into balance with omega-3 so they can sleep, so that if you can't
Yeah.
sleep, you can't, you know, I don't know. I don't know. That's
There's
just
a
me.
there's a lot to
Rant
say
over.
about lifestyle medicine, but and that actually applies to hormones and managing brain fog. Basically,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
yeah, those seeing the doctor is definitely essential, and getting your blood tests and checking where you're at and knowing
Mm.
what stage of life you're in is absolutely essential. But at the same time, they're only one part of the healing process, or not the healing process, because it's a natural process to go through
Yeah.
menopause. Every freaking
Of the
woman will go
management
through.
process, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and everybody responds differently. So, lifestyle medicine is definitely, regulating through breath work and ensuring you're nourishing your body with nutrition that matches where your body's at and your bone density and your muscle strength, but also sleep routines and
Yep.
sunlight, and the amount of joy you have in your life can lift brain fog. You know, I know we haven't had
Have
a
a bit of
dance
a
off yet. I was
have a
thinking that the
dance.
other day. I know we didn't have
Uh,
we haven't had a boogie yet, but I'm saying the lifestyle medicine, yes, that physical medical part is one part, but we can draw from ancient wisdom of indigenous cultures who their livelihood was based on survival, but they still went through, and the women of that era, they became like the head of the villages, and they
Yep.
can, so I just think that we've kind of narrowed our thinking around menopause and women, and and you can see it on social media. It's becoming such a big hot topic because the research has avoided it for such a long time, because it was all a bit too hard, and you don't want to,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
it's like, and so
Yeah.
even probably how they put you on how they suggest antidepressants is because there's more research, and so the
More
research on
evidence,
women's
right?
health, and so they can't say, oh, this actually helps, because we've got nothing to refer to. So it's even just having that body of double-blinded testing and research to back up what is appropriate to treat women with. And because they don't have that, they're like, oh, well, this has a bit of science and it looks a bit, so they, but
But
it's like what you said, it's not actually
that
the case.
it
So we
touches
need
on
to be
something.
mindful.
Yeah, we do need to be mindful, and I do think that there's a lot to be said for double blind and proper scientific evidence. But I also think that we should not ignore ancient wisdom, or um,
Lived
we used
experience.
to call it kjerringråd in Norwegian, and that means old wives' tales, I think, right?
Yeah.
Giving
Yeah.
the advice, the wisdom of the matriarchs, or the or witches or whatever. You know, uh, these are things that work. These
Mm.
plants work.
Mm.
That sort of stuff. Without
Mm.
so I think we need to be open to other things as well, but under supervision and things. But I don't know. I mean, I would hate. I wanted to be a doctor, but I would hate to be one, because there's so much you have to know, and so
Mm.
much you have to, so much responsibility in what's happening. But I think that's why there is this growth of holistic and integrative medicine, where they're kind of bringing in the best of, I hope, of all worlds and looking at a holistic.
We're getting there.
Uh,
I don't know that the healthcare system does that very
no, the
well at the
healthcare
moment, but
system
it's,
doesn't, but there are practitioners who are very aware of it, right?
yeah. And hopefully there's a growing body of them evolving. And, because, we're not, our hormones are interconnected to how
Mm,
our organs function.
yeah.
And our organs function based on our cellular health. So, like
Mm,
everything, as we've been saying, is all interrelated. So, to think that a doctor can just prescribe hormones and all your brain fogginess is going to
mm,
completely clear without
mm,
you bringing in other elements.
mm,
Yes, it's a tool, but, lifestyle medicine can lift the brain fog to a certain degree. And then if it
yeah.
doesn't, then that's where that last little piece of the puzzle might lift it up. But,
Yeah.
brain
But talking,
fog
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is a signal to build up an awareness of what's happening in your body and what are your
Sure,
hormones
sure.
doing. Yeah.
But I do think that, and I might just sort of finish off on that note that once I started understanding the importance of uh, getting balance with your omega-3s and omega-6s, when I started taking this balance on, I suddenly got my brain clarity back again. Like my
Mm.
brain came back to me, and I didn't realize that it was still off
Yeah.
because it was so much better than it was during that period, right? And then I kind of went, oh my God, I've totally got that clarity. Like I do it like this, and I can
Mm.
focus 100%. I've always been able to hyper focus, but now I can focus on this thing, and then I can switch, and I can focus on that thing, and I can switch back again or go over to this thing, right? So being able to do that, and
Wise
that's what
woman.
that's given me.
That's wise woman energy.
Yeah, but being able to do that, and I think it is something that women are more adept at: task
Mm-hmm.
switching, focus
Mm-hmm.
switching, context switching. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel that that I didn't have that clarity until I kind of discovered what um started taking the right supplements for that.
And you got to go through a process to find what works for you, right? Because you
Yeah,
probably,
absolutely.
like, you
Yeah,
did the testosterone, you tried different things, and
and that
eventually,
worked, right? That
yeah,
worked.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
or actually,
I just,
let me rephrase that, because yes, I was taking it, but I wasn't very good at taking it uh, because what works for me is when I get an awareness and I understand things, then I can
yeah.
actually address it. So it wasn't even necessarily the testosterone for me, although that's helped my doctor a lot. but but it was
Yeah,
actually okay. I don't have Alzheimer's. It's just normal,
right.
right?
Yeah. Now
And
I
then
can
I can
work with
keep on
that.
that. So yeah, yeah. So I think
Yeah,
that, um, like you were saying, this is a normal process. This is something we need to go through, right? So
absolutely. Well, I just something that I wanted to mention, which is a little bit different to what you're talking about, but um, it's kind of related to what I was saying about lifestyle medicine in terms of if you still have your cycle, which I do, and now I'm a mother in perimenopause while my daughters are going through puberty, so that's an interesting space to be in.
yeah.
But I had, as I said, I didn't really take hormones, but I never, I know there's lots of apps that can track your cycle, and
Yeah.
or you can write it in a
And
diary
I
and
have
journal.
used yeah, that at some
I
stage.
have
Yeah.
on and off, but I'm not very
Yeah.
consistent. But for me, what is consistent is the moon. So I actually, my
Mm,
cycle, and it tells me a lot when my cycle's off. So I often will have or be starting my cycle, my menses, when the moon is full. So
mm,
that, and that happens quite frequently. And sometimes, in certain situations where I've been sick or something and I've had to take medicines, it throws
mm,
my cycle off and I'm no longer connected to the moon. Like my cycle's
mm.
off the moon cycle.
You're so
So,
earthy, aren't you, and moony?
but I have done that for such a long time,
Yeah.
actually.
Uh, uh,
But I still don't document it. But for me, that's my trigger of where I'm at in my cycle, whether it's waxing, waning, or new moon. Like I kind of can pick up. And, in the emergency, when I used to work in the emergency department, we would always say, oh, it's a full moon again, because like everybody's energy is like,
but this is very
intense,
true, right?
and
things
happening.
happen. And things happen, and we think it's not. I mean, the moon makes the waters ebb and flow, right?
Right.
And we're 80% fluid, aren't we, or something like that?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
more than that. Yeah.
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 So why shouldn't it affect us?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think brain fog isn't a failure, and it's more of, and also I think it's just about being present with what is happening in your body during the different cycles. And one thing that's been popping up for me is that women's cycles are obviously quite different to men's. Men sort of seem to have a day-night cycle, whereas we're sort of this, whatever your
seasonal. Yeah.
So our cycles are different, and sometimes that's tricky if our partner is, male, and your cycles are different.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes cause brain fog.
I think we should probably wrap up with. All right, so we are wrapping up. Cool.
Yes.
So we've covered quite a lot of ground today that we didn't script at all, but that's how we roll. We're imperfectly perfect, right? So we talked about brain fog, we talked about the cloudiness, we talked about how that could be hormone related, but also other things. And the important thing for us was really that brain fog isn't failure. It's just where you're at and what's happening in your life there and then. Then we talked about menstrual cycles. We talked about endometriosis, which we don't know if I definitely do not have that, but I do think there's some great people doing some great work on it. We talked about education around women's health. We also talked about cycles of men and women, and the hormones and the journey through perimenopause, as you guys like to call it. So a lot of these things, I almost feel drained. You feel drained? No, I don't. I actually feel quite energized. Right?
I feel
so that kind of leads us a
I
little
love
bit
talking
into...
about this stuff.
I know you do. Woo!
I'm full nerd.
Fully nerding out. But it does lead us to, I mean, we both like to talk. Maybe I like to talk more than you. I don't know. But
No.
so we feel energized from talking. But next week, what are we talking about?
Well, we're exploring energy and how to how to access and tap into it in the messy middle, which we're calling midlife, and how to maintain it.
We're calling it the messy middle.
Messy middle.
Midlife.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The other way around.
So I'm excited about this. I love energy. I nerd out on energy. So and energy can mean lots of different things. But I know you're an Energizer Bunny, and I'm a lot for lots of people. So I can't wait to get into that episode and explore what comes out.
I've always loved the Duracell ads. It's like, oh, there's Gree on steroids. Anyway, let's talk more about it next episode, and also about how we could potentially use technology and science to set boundaries around these things so that they don't suck our energy, zap us. So yeah, some of the things we'll explore.
Sounds great. Right. Well, thanks, Gree. And
thank you,
hopefully
Steph.
The audience have found something useful, and please like and share with your friends, or if you feel like it's a conversation you want to join in, message us. And we would love to hear from anyone, and any comments, any feedback. We're here. And check out our website and our YouTube and Spotify and Applecast. So yeah, we're everywhere.
There's so many different places. Yes, we are.
It's hard to keep up.
We need some energy for that.
Yeah, we do. Bye. Thanks for joining us on Vitalify Unplugged. If you're feeling seen in the fog, then share this episode with a soul sister, follow and drop us a DM. Your story matters and we would love to hear it. So keep us posted and see you in the next episode.